I now give the floor to the representative of Algeria.
Thank you, President. I have the honor to deliver this statement on behalf of the A3+, namely Guyana, Sierra Leone, Somalia, and my own country, Algeria. At the outset, the A3+ extends its sincere appreciation to Special Envoy Geir Pedersen and their Secretary General Tom Fletcher for their briefings. We also appreciate the participation at this debate of His Excellency Qusay al-Dahak, the permanent representative of Syria, and also the participation of representatives of Iran, Qatar, and Turkey. Mr. President, the A3+ remains gravely concerned about the overall situation in Syria, which continues to be marked by fragility and volatility. After more than a decade of conflict, the Syrian people still face violence, insecurity, and humanitarian deprivation on an unbearable scale. We take note with deep concern of the recent report of the Independent International Commission of Inquiry, which documented grave violations against civilians in the coastal region earlier this year. These horrific findings remind us of the urgency of ensuring justice and accountability. Perpetrators of such crimes must not be allowed to act with impunity. Equally alarming are the recent events in Sueda, with heavy tolls and more than 192 people displaced. The A3+ underscores the urgent need for all parties to adhere to the ceasefire arrangement, to protect civilians, and to guarantee immediate and unhindering humanitarian access to all affected areas in Sueda and throughout Syria. Failure to do so will only deepen the suffering of the Syrian people, hinder recovery efforts, and fuel further instability in the country. We also warn against the danger of this tragic pattern of violence spreading to other regions in Syria. Renewed conflict risks undoing the limited progress achieved so far and undermining the possibility of building a durable peace. In this regard, we call for the full implementation of the March Agreement with the Syrian Democratic Forces, an agreement which represents an important step toward de-escalation and national reconciliation. Only through dialogue, Syrians can overcome their divergences. In this regard, the upcoming legislative elections represent an important opportunity to advance toward inclusive governance. They must be conducted transparently and fairly to strengthen legitimacy and trust. This legislative election process must allow to the full, equal, and meaningful participation of women and youth. President, we must be clear in rejecting external interference that exacerbates instability in Syria. The A3+ reiterates its strong condemnation of Israel's repeated military action in Syria. Such actions flagrantly violate Syria's sovereignty. The 1974 disengagement agreement, international law, and the UN Charter, ultimately. They only serve to aggravate tensions and further destabilize the region. The A3+ reaffirms its unwavering support for Syria's sovereignty, unity, independence, and territorial integrity. And we reiterate our full support for the efforts of the UN in Special Envoy and for a Syrian-owned, Syrian-led political process as the only sustainable path toward peace. We also stress the critical role of the United Nations in this process. Mr. President, the humanitarian situation in Syria is further exacerbated by the worst drought in decades, with wheat production collapsing by 40%. The A3+ takes note that over 2.3 million Syrians have returned to their area of origin. While encouraging, these returns takes place amid severe gaps, which must be addressed if they are to be sustainable. Today, more than half of the population suffers from food insecurity, and nearly 3 million people are at risk of severe hunger. Yet, the humanitarian response is faltering. Insecurity, logistical barriers, and chronic underfunding severely constrain aid delivery. The 2025 Humanitarian Response Plan, which appeals for $3.2 billion, is only 14% funded. This is an alarming shortfall, and the A3+ calls on all donors to urgently mobilize resources to ensure that life-saving assistance reaches those most in need before the crisis spirals further out of control. Explosive remnants of war and landmines continue to cause injuries and death of many persons, particularly among children. We urge increased support, including funding and capacity building to address mines threat. Mr. President, to conclude, the A3+ firmly believe that the future of Syria must be built on three inseparable pillars: accountability for past crimes, inclusivity in the political process, and respect respect for sovereignty, unity, independence, and territorial integrity of Syria. I thank you.
Agradezco a la delegación de
I thank the delegation of Algeria